Everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the Healthy Eating Index. So, the Healthy Eating Index was developed by the Division of Cancer Control and Population Sciences at NIH. And they developed the Healthy Eating Index because, as you have probably noticed, it's really difficult to actually quantify someone's diet, either good or bad, because diet has a lot of different components. You might have eaten a ton of fruits and vegetables during the day, but if you poured sugar all over them, well, it's still good that you ate fruits and vegetables, but probably not good that you poured sugar all over them. So the Healthy Eating Index is a scoring metric, and it's nice because it's based on the dietary guidelines for Americans. So this means that if you have a good healthy eating index, you are meeting the dietary guidelines for Americans. It's also nice because the HEI, or Healthy Eating Index, is scored from 0 to 100, and people generally are able to understand uh, 0 to 100. So let's look at evaluating. Um, Here we go. So if we're looking at the interpretation, we can think of our HEI as a grade. So if you have a score of 90 to 100, you're doing good. You got an A. If your HEI is around 0 to 59, well, that's an F. You're failing. So we can score it from 0 to 100, but how do we develop these scores? They do now have one for toddlers. I'm not going to be talking about this one right now, though, but it is nice that we now have it. I'm focusing here on the HEI 2020 for individuals age 2 and older. So we have different components that are made up of dietary constituents, and we have associated points. So let's look at this first one. Total fruits, which is all of the fruits in the diet, and it has a maximum score of 5. Okay, what's our standard for the maximum score? Well, greater than 0.8 cups per 1,000 calories will get you a score of 5. A score of 0 is no fruits. We also have whole fruits, so citrus, melon, berries, intact fruits, and others. Again, maximum score 5. To get the maximum score of 5, you have to have over 0.4 cups per 1,000 calorie equivalent. And again, you'll get a score of 0 if you have no fruits or vegetables. And we can go down and we see that we have total fruits, whole fruits, total vegetables, greens and beans, so dark green vegetables, legumes, whole grains, dairy, protein foods, seafood and plant proteins, refined grains, added sugars, sodium, saturated fat, and fatty acids. So you'll see that of these components, there are healthy components and unhealthy components. Another way of thinking of these components, the healthy ones, are adequacy components. Are we getting enough? And those are things like fruits and vegetables, greens and beans, whole grains, dairy, total protein, seafood and plant proteins, and our fatty acids. But we also have items that we're going to try to limit. And so these would be things like refined grains, added sugars, sodium, and saturated fats. So let's see refined grains. So if you're eating less than 1.8 ounces per 1,000 calories, you get a 10. So for the foods we're trying to limit, you get a better score for less consumption. Similarly, added sugars, less than 6.5% of our energy. You get no points for added sugars if it's over 26% of your energy. So your next thought might be, well, it's great that we have this scoring, but how do I know what foods go in what categories? Well, if you're using the automated self-administered 24-hour dietary assessment tool, which we do in this class, aka the ASA 24, as your dietary recall, it actually groups the items for you. And it groups them in this analysis file called totals. It'll give you data for a person by day, providing the total nutrient and food group values for all of the foods and beverages. So you can go and look at an example file. I've already downloaded this sample analysis files in Data Dictionary, and so let's take a look at them. So here I have opened the Data Dictionary for the totals from the ASA 24. And what a data dictionary does is it tells you, okay, this is what the field is called, but this isn't a very human readable name, recall, RECID. So there's also a description. This is the unique intake by day. Similarly, recall number, this is the number of the recall. So then we can go through and we see that, oh, kcal stands for energy. It's a numeric. We also have proteins, carbohydrates, fats, all of the various vitamins and minerals you could think of. But then when we get down here, you'll see this, F total, total intact fruits, whole or cut, and fruit juices. So this is exactly the same as our total fruits category. And in fact, we also have our intact fruits, citrus, melons, berries. You'll see that there's also V total. So the ASA 24 has already created these total categories. They are the exact same as the ones we see here. Whole fruits, citrus, melon, berries, other intact fruits, total vegetables. The ASA categorizes these for us. Now we're looking at the diet recall itself. You can see I'm still looking at the totals. Here's the recall ID, which I know is the unique number. Here's our username. If I go down, we see kcals, protein, fat. Of course, we can use the find, Command F, and we could do vtot. And here's our V total value. So again, this is just the output from the ASA 24. So what I've done to help you out is I've actually already created an HEI calculator. So this sheet is our HEI calculator. You'll see here there's kcals, F total, V total, and I've even included what these stand for. And they have the exact same names as in our ASA diet recall. So let's just take a look again at the ASA. See if I can get both of these in the screen, kind of. Zoom out a little bit. Here we go. So up here on the top, this is our recall. This is what someone reported. And down here, we have our calculator. So the first thing that we're going to enter is energy. So again, we can just hit Command F, energy, or kcal. And we see that it's this value. I don't know why it has that in front of it, but we can just copy this and put it into the yellow box. And we do that for all of these. So F total. Again, I'm just using Command F. I'm finding the value and I'm pasting it into the box. V total, which happens to be right there. Sorry, this is really small. There we go, it's a little bit bigger. V legumes. That's a 0, so that's an easy one. Whole grains. As you can see, G whole, whole grains. And refined grains. This is total meat and poultry, which happens to be right next to it. Then our seafood, that's a 0. Let's see, seafood low. This person didn't like seafood, so those are both 0s. Let's see, also no soy. That's a 0. Looks like they ate some nuts, 0.5 or so. All right, no legumes. Oops, put it in the wrong spot. That's the biggest mistake you can make, is just putting things in the wrong spot. And then dairy total looks like 6.67. And then let's find our added sugars. There we go. And our saturated fat, S fat. Almost done. We need to find sodium. Oops. There we go. And then our polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PFATs. And our MFAT, which is right here. And then last but not least, our citrus fruits, which was a 0. Oops. And F other, which is a little bit. All right, so now let's just take a look at what we have. Sorry, this font is so small. Okay. So you'll notice that it fills in across the table. You don't have to worry too much about that. So what I want to draw your attention to now is at the very bottom, you'll see this was the input sheet. We inputted all of these values from our diet recall. Now we go to the output. So in the output, we have our energy intake, which is exactly the same as what we put in. We put in almost 5,000 calories. And then we have our groups again: sodium, refined grains, added sugar, saturated fat, veggies, fruits, blah, blah, blah. And we have the HEI. So here, what I've done is it calculates how much did the person eat. This is directly from what we inputted down here, sodium. It rounds it, because that's a lot of digits. And then it calculates the equivalence. So we know that a good score for sodium is less than 1.1. That would be a perfect 10. Well, it's a little bit over 1.1. So we actually get a score of 7.92. You can look at the equation if you want and backtrack how I calculated it, but it might just be easier to trust me that this is correct. If we had a score or an equivalency greater than 2, our score would be 0. So here we see our score goes here. Let's look at our refined grains. So we ate, let's see, it's an ounce equivalent, so 4 ounces, a little more than 4 ounces. The equivalent is 0.95, and it is less than 1.8. So technically our score would be above 10, but you can't be above 10 and you can't be below 0. So it just gives us a 10. So we go through here are our raw scores, and you can see here, this one's actually negative for saturated fat, but there is no negative score, so it's just 0. It does that for everything. We didn't have to type anything into the output page. You only type in the values in the input page. In fact, you only type them into this yellow bar. And when we go down to our HEI score for this diet recall is 53.8. So again, if you think of that like a grade, this person failed. So not great. So let's see, where could they do better? So that we can look at each score. So they did really good on refined grains and added sugars. They got perfect 10s on those, but then they got a 0 on saturated fat. So this person wasn't eating very many refined grains and sugars, but was eating a lot of saturated fat. They also didn't do so hot on total fruits or veggies. We see that they scored in the 2, just above 2, just around 2. They also didn't do very good with seafood or plant proteins. So if we're counseling someone, the HEI is useful because we can tell them a positive. They did great on avoiding refined grains and added sugars, but they probably need to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into their diet. And we could even see, okay, let's go back here. Let's go to our fruits and vegetables, How many more cups would we need to get? So let's see, what if we doubled it and we had 3 cups? Could go over here. Let's look at total fruit. All right, we're doing better, but we can also take a hint from how we would get a perfect score. So we would need greater than 0.8. Our equivalent is still under 0.8. So let's try to boost that a little bit more. Let's go 5. 5 cups of fruit. Let's see, where are we? Fruit. There we go. So at 5 cups of fruit, we're above the 0.8 and we get a perfect 5 score. So this is a way that you can use the HEI when talking with someone because it will help you calculate, okay, you weren't doing so great. In fact, you only ate 1 cup of fruit. Really, if you got it, you need to get it up to like 5 cups of fruits. And again, that could have been, they didn't eat any berry, citrus, or melon, so we could have added that. And that would have been in our total fruit category. So again, we would have gotten that back up to 5. We can also see, okay, we know that they were a little high on saturated fats, right? Let's take a look. They had 113 grams of saturated fats. So let's see. The equivalent, that's a 20. We want it less than 16. Ideally, we'd want it less than 8. So let's think. If we're at 20, that means we need about half as much. 20 is around, like 8 is close to 10. So let's decrease this by half. Let's see, let's say 50. So saturated fats, we decreased it to 50. Now our equivalency is to 9.16. And instead of having that bad score, we're now at an 8.55. So those two changes, changing how much saturated fat and how much fruit, we got this person up from a failing HEI to a solid C. Is it perfect? No, but these are little ways that we can use the HEI to help someone figure out how to make their diet better. All right, we'll go through this more in class, but hopefully this introductory video has been helpful.